Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated to providing you with life strategies with a little bit of entrepreneur advice. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, welcome to the Networking with Michelle show. So excited. Today's special guest is Robert Lawrence, who has just an exciting career. He is an airline pilot. He's doing what he loves, but he really focuses on goal setting, visualization, and the law of attraction. Robert, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Michelle, great. It's really a privilege to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm just so curious about you, and I'm ready to dive in. But first, just tell us a little bit about your background. I want to hear about your childhood, starting from there and working the way up.
Okay, great. And I say this is where it begins for almost everybody as well, is we repeat what we learned in childhood. I grew up north of Seattle. My dad was a postman. My mom was a stay-at-home mother. And I like to say that, like everybody, I learned to talk just by listening to others around me before I could read and write. I learned what was acceptable to eat and how to dress, and I picked up all the beliefs and prejudices of my family and those around me. And that's the way that I'd live my life, where my father would say, work hard, get a good job. And then you would hear things like, rich people are different than us. Maybe they've cheated, or they're dishonest, or they're greedy. And smart people go to college, and we never talked about goal setting or following your passion. It was a lot of scarcity thinking. And my dad thought I should be a postman. And so growing up, I worked hard and I got good grades in school. But I found that all that got me was a life of frustration and misery, and I was totally unhappy, Michelle. I was working 6 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day, and I was totally unhappy. And so that was my life. But I think most people are like that because I was just repeating what I had learned.
I think you're repeating what you learned, but I guess at one point, I would like to think everyone has goals and dreams, but reality is set in, and it's like, okay, I got to keep doing what I got to do just to pay bills. So I don't even know how to fit in the pursuit of my dreams.
Yeah, Michelle, that's so true. When you mentioned that was it. I did have some dreams, but first of all, I didn't have any idea how to get there. But most importantly, I didn't believe I was worthy or capable of pursuing any of my dreams. And even though I had been a special operations soldier in the military, I had done well, I was a hard worker, I was literally living paycheck to paycheck and unhappy. And it was because I did what most people do, is back before the internet, I would look in the newspaper and find a job that I thought I could get. I didn't consider maybe I should do what I enjoy. Why don't I think about what do I want to do with my life? That never crossed my mind. But there came a point where I had a big experience in my life, and it changed my total outlook. And that led me to books by Dr. Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and Napoleon Hill and so many others. And that's where my life really pivoted, Michelle. And I think the listeners to your show today, some of the listeners, their life is never going to be the same after hearing this interview.
So you said in your 20s, if you don't mind me asking, what were you doing in your 20s? Did you go to college, working, just the average Joe? Because you stated you didn't become an airline pilot until the age of 49 or 50?
49, that's right. I had been in the military after high school because nobody ever talked about going to college. And so I never even applied. First of all, I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was ready, and probably I wasn't mature enough at that time. So I served in the military, and then I did get a 2-year college degree, and then I moved back to Seattle, and I got a job, and I was just working that job. I had a roommate, an apartment, used cars, and I just worked. And but yeah, and as I was getting older, and then you think, then you start thinking, it's too late to finish college. But what happened after I found these books by Dr. Wayne Dyer and others is I realized, Michelle, that I was in charge of my life. And there was a I always say it was a spiritual component to it that really changed everything. But it was a book by Wayne Dyer, and in a sense where he said most people are like corks drifting in the ocean. And if you simply put a rudder on your lifeboat, your boat of life, and set a destination or a goal, you will eventually arrive there. And that just clicked with me. That I understood. And I thought, okay, let me try this. Let me set a simple goal. And my first simple goal was I want to graduate from the University of Washington in Seattle. And I had no idea how I was going to do that because I didn't have the time. I didn't have the money. And I thought, well, the people going to the University of Washington are definitely so much smarter than me. And I just had no confidence. But I said, let me try what all these authors, people like you and so many other people say. But I didn't believe it because really it sounded too easy. And I think that's why so many people refuse to believe in the law of attraction and goal setting. They don't believe it can be really a simple shift in our thinking.
I think one problem may be is, okay, I'm reading this book. I'm in the moment, the moment of me reading this book. I feel good. I feel great. Okay. Yeah. And, 3 days after completing the book, I'm great. 7 days, okay. 10 days,
I hear you. I'm the same way, and I think most people are the same way. That's why, for me, Michelle, I'm a podcast junkie. Thank goodness people like you are putting out podcasts, because we need to be reminded every day that we live in an infinite universe, that all things are possible, that we are creators. Our thoughts, what we think about, are invisible thoughts that nobody can hear or see except us, right? I can't read your mind. Your invisible thought will manifest as your physical reality. And if you're not reminded of that every day, even me, every day, I will fall back into my limited scarcity thinking because the media will tell me the economy is going to crash. There's a murderer and rapist around every corner, and things are difficult. We're going to get the flu, and there's another epidemic, and we're just inundated by negativity and scarcity thinking. And most of our family and friends are, I always say, they're in the matrix, like I used to be. I didn't understand that we live on a spaceship Earth, that it's alive, it's hurtling through infinite space with no force acting upon it. And I always think, what is it? What is it that's spinning our planet, that's creating universes, that grows a baby in a woman's womb? It's the same intelligence that runs through us. And we can use that intelligence with our thoughts to manifest our ideal life. And I started hearing Mark Allen talk about our ideal life. And I wrote down, I said, what do I want as my ideal life? I said, I want more time to walk on the beach, more time to hike, more time to sail. I want to ride my motorcycle. I don't want to work very hard, and I want to get paid to travel. So over the course of it's like losing weight. Most people, they didn't put the weight on overnight. They're not going to lose it overnight. But to change your life, if you just first know, I'm sorry, forgive me for rambling, but just this point is so important. Most people don't even listen to those negative thoughts in their head, their inner voice. The constant stream of negative chatter is, you're not good enough, don't take a chance, play it safe. Other people are different than you. It's going to take too long. That endless stream of negative scarcity thinking. If you just listen to that, that's the first step. And just put the brakes on that. Say, hey, that's not true for me. I can live where I want to live. I can work and be an entrepreneur and network like Michelle. It's just, I've got to start thinking that it's possible for me. Of course it's possible, because once we start thinking that way, day after day after day, you take the first step, then you take the next step. But if most people, if they never even check those thoughts, Michelle, their life will never change. They'll never take that first step.
And what are some of the steps that you have taken, like literally, tactical stuff? Is it journaling, meditation, writing down your goals and reading them 3 times a day? What were some of the things that you were doing?
Okay, great question. I literally followed the advice of so many different people. I always say I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I wrote down my goals. I always say there's something about writing the goal down, because then it's captured. You can feel it. It's a tactile response. You can say it, suddenly you hear it, you speak it, and you see it. You have so many senses involved. I researched once that a thought in our head, if we don't capture that thought, within 15 seconds, it'll disappear and never be found again. So it's so important. I wrote down my goals. I had them in my wallet, in my car. Just like everybody says, put them on the mirror in your bathroom. I did all that. And I envisioned what I started to do, Michelle, is I envisioned myself as the goal had already been accomplished. So when I was 48 and I'd been working in a totally different career, and I was so unhappy there, even though most people would say, "Oh, you're earning good money." I know you've talked about being in corporate America, and people get caught up. They think, "Oh, this is as good as it gets. Don't you dare change." But I was so unhappy, and I thought, I'm not living my ideal life. What do I really want to do? Is I want to fly airplanes and get paid to travel. I said I want to do that. That was a goal I had that got put on the back burner. So I used to envision myself, Michelle, that I was in my pilot uniform sitting in a large commercial aircraft. And I thought, well, how is that going to happen? I'm like, that's expensive. And I hadn't really I'd been a pilot for a while. In the last decade, I had hardly flown an airplane. But I said, it's that if I think of all the negatives, I'll never take the first step. Let's think of all the positives. I said, I'm a smart guy. I'm successful. I'm a hard worker. I can do anything that anybody else can do. And I say these things, Michelle, not to ever brag, but just to remind the listeners to your show that anything anybody has ever done, they can do too. So when I made that commitment, when I visualized my goal, when I wrote it down, I took the first step. The first step was to go down to the flight school by my house. And when I went there that day, Michelle, there was 2 airline recruiters there. Now, what are the odds of that? There's this a little flight school, and there's these 2 guys. It just happened to be there the hour that I went there. And that's the airline that I work for now. And so that was the first step where you're like, wow, the law of attraction is real. There is an infinite intelligence that creates everything that we see, that gives us clean water, and food grows out of the earth, and everything just works perfectly without us having to do anything. If it can work for the universe, it can work in our lives. And I've seen it time and time and time again. It's just, do we believe it? Will we take action?
Do you think the more we give credit to the law of attraction, the more we attract?
I believe that we're attracting everything into our lives all the time, good and bad. I believe that most people who talk about they get sick every winter, and sure enough, they get sick every winter. I flip that. I say I'm healthy. I always say I never think a negative thought. If I do, I catch it and I replace it with positive. And I say wealth flows to me easily. And I'm here on my golf course, Ocean View home right now, Michelle, not because I'm any different than anybody else or that I work harder. It's just that I visualize that money flows to me easily. I don't know all the ways that it can flow. It can come to me in the mail. I can inherit it. I can get a bonus at work. I can sell more books. And the same thing is, I always think, okay, what relationship do I want? How do I want my body to look? The law of attraction, I believe, works with every area of your life, your career, your relationships, your happiness. And that's what most people want, Michelle, right? Is ultimately we do things because we think they're going to make us happy. And I'm saying, do what makes you happy, because all else in life is suffering.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the reason why I ask is because, I believe in God. I believe in the law of attraction. But I realize when I do talk to certain people about the law of attraction, they're like, oh, well, that's just a one-off situation, or that's just a coincidence. And it's like, I feel like when they say that, it's shutting down opportunity versus being open-minded and, really giving credit. Because I think it's a combination of things that flow in your direction, as you've been stating. But at the same time, I feel like we have to yield to the universe and what's working.
Yeah, well said. I heard you on a podcast say the other day, I don't know how old the podcast was, but you said self-awareness is your number one thing. And I'm in agreement with you. If we're self-aware about ourselves and our surroundings, and Michelle, I believe that there is, some people call it God, other people call it consciousness. I always say, call it whatever you want. But there is something that has no beginning and no end, and there is nothing it is not. Therefore, is also us. And we are all connected, just as a plant is connected to the earth and it bears fruit, and we eat the fruit, and it passes through us. And it's this never-ending cycle. As I'm looking out to the ocean, water evaporates and it condenses into a cloud, and the wind blows it, and it drops it somewhere onto a field, and food grows out, and then the food comes to our store, and it's this perfect cycle that continues, and we're all connected, and there is something that was what happened in my 20s. I had the experience where the curtain was pulled aside, and I remembered exactly what I'm talking about. It's so hard to describe because it's bigger than words, but people who meditate for 20 years in the mountains, this is what the experience that they are trying to achieve. And I had it unexpectedly in my 20s, and it changed my life. I learned that there is nothing to fear. We are all connected, and all there is love. And it changed my life. And I realized that there is nothing to fear. And we are creator. I always say we're created and we are creators. And we create our lives with our thoughts. We are the star, director, and writer of the movie of our lives. And if we don't like the scene we're in, we can write a new scene. We can do that. And we do it with our thoughts, with our imagination, and with inspired action. Because I bet before you became networking with Michelle, super podcast star, you thought that, right? You thought that, Michelle. You envisioned that. That was the first step. Am I right?
Yes. One thing I've also been working on, because it is the visualization piece, and then I think I've been gifted with discernment. But now I'm in a stage where it's like, okay, Michelle, you have to be at one with your decision. Like when you make this decision right now, you're making it with the best information, resources, with everything that you have right now. Because I'm finding that at the moment, I trust my decision making. But then when things, when shit hits the fan 6 months later, I'm like, wait a minute, Michelle, did you really make the best decision? Do you have any advice regarding that?
Absolutely. Michelle, I've seen you speak before groups, watching your videos. I've heard your podcast. When I see you, Michelle, I see that you are capable of anything. And I think just like anybody, myself included, we still have these inner doubts that creep up, right? Because they, just like me and you had these doubts and fears that were programmed into you by either the TV or media or teachers. But your decisions, as long as you're in the game, Michelle, you're going to make a play. And I always say life is, if we don't want it to be a straight line, right? We like a few curves in life. When we go to the store and we buy a jigsaw puzzle, we want to put it together. We don't want it already done. We like the challenge. And it's like if you open the newspaper and you want to do a crossword puzzle or Sudoku, but it's already done, that's no fun. So when you're visualizing your goal, right, you want to create that. You don't want it already done. I always say that's why we're here. We're here to have infinite new experiences in a human body. What else would we do for infinity? We don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know when we're going to die. We know that there's going to be twists and turns on our path. But we know, though, that if you hold that vision, that you're going to get to your destination. I know that you're going to accomplish every one of your dreams. I know that you will. Will there be obstacles? Absolutely. That's what makes it more exciting and fulfilling and rewarding. But when I see you, I see unlimited potential.
Thank you. Another thing I would love to get your input, because I agree with everything you said, and there's so many people and resources that focus on the law of attraction. But I think it's really important to talk about our family and friends and having that support group during this transition. And what did that look like for you when you went from immersing yourself in these books to the point that you're changing your life and you're like, look, I'm about to go to this airline, I'm about to go to the school, I'm talking to these recruiters. How did that affect your relationships, if you don't mind sharing?
Michelle, that is a great question. And wow, it kind of hit me there a little bit when you were talking, because even today, my family and friends don't think like I do. I've never had a support group. My support group has been talking to people like you and listening to other podcasts and reading the books, because 95% of the people, in my opinion, are still in the matrix where they don't believe in the law of attraction. They're out there going to jobs they don't like. They're out there afraid to live their dream. So that's why I'm a podcast junkie, Michelle, is I need to be reminded that what I believe is what's true. Just because most people don't believe in the law of attraction doesn't mean they're right. I say most people used to believe the earth was flat. But it doesn't matter how many people believe something. It would be great if I had people in my life that thought like me. I think it would give me more strength to achieve all my dreams and goals faster. But I use books and podcasts to remind me every day and to network. But I was on my own. Matter of fact, at my last job, when I told a colleague that I was going to be leaving that job to become an airline pilot, he laughed in my face because he couldn't see himself achieving his goal. He certainly couldn't see me achieving a goal. And so I'm always careful to share with people, because a lot of time, most people, their reaction to your goal or your dream is to try and knock you down. That's like when there's a bucket full of crabs. When one crab tries to climb out of the bucket, the other crabs will pull that crab back down, because people often don't want to lift you up to your dreams, because it makes them look bad. Because most people, Michelle, as you know this, they only talk about their dream. But when they talk about their dream, even your listeners will have to admit this sometimes, their next thought will be, but it's too expensive, it'll take too long, it's too hard, I'm not good enough, I don't know how. And they kill their dreams. That's why I listen to shows like yours.
Yeah, killing their dreams before they even start.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have this thing, and I need to find a way to articulate it, but I'm calling it the climb. You know, I'm on this climb, the journey, and it's very interesting to see the people that are climbing with me, right? Like they're doing their thing, good work separately, but then we're still together. And then and because I think it's so cliche, but I guess I'm starting to discover it. Like, okay, is it really lonely at the top or lonely on the edge? And just trying to find that median, because it's like I want people to come with me. Like I want us all to be successful in our own right, but I can only balance that for myself.
Yeah, I hear you. I heard Mark Allen say once, no, actually, it was author of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. God, his name escapes me. Richard Bach. He's the one who really inspired me years ago to become an airline pilot when I started reading his book. But Michelle, he had said that when he started writing his books, his audience was already out there. They just needed to connect. And your audience is out there too, because I found you. Out of 8 billion people on the planet, Michelle, I found you. Right? I searched you out and we connected. And there's so many thousands and millions of people like me that are looking for you. And we want to join you on the climb. And I always say, just do your thing and people will find you. You know, after I became an airline pilot, I said, okay, what do I really want to do? I'm like, I want to share the message. I want to inspire people just like you inspire me and Wayne Dyer inspired me and Louise Hay inspired me. That's where I get my most satisfaction. I said, I'm going to begin writing books and share with people how to do it. But initially I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? I don't have a publisher. I've never written, right? All those doubts, but put on the brake. And I said, okay, let me just write the book and then I'll figure it out. So I wrote my first book. And Michelle, I went from 0 sales to 1 a month to 10 a month. Now I'm going to have over 100 a month this month. And then next month I might have, and it's just going to build. I'm going to climb, just like you're saying. It's every day I climb another rung on the ladder. And life is just like that. And I can just say that to you, the listeners that either stumbled upon your podcast or regular listeners. If you just simply envision your life and think about it and know that you can do it and just silence your inner voice and stay away from those friends that have those negative limiting thoughts that don't support you. Stick with people like you. I mean, there's strength in numbers. So I'm with you on the climb, Michelle, 100%.
Do you think we transition from what we are doing to what we want to do? Is that a gradual transition?
It seems to be. It seems to be. I know. I heard you do an interview recently, and a guy said, "Jump in 100%," and I'm like, and he was a real estate investor, and I'm like, I've invested in real estate, and first I bought my first home, and then I bought another. I didn't quit my job to do it. Um, I think you can do it either way. You can jump in and you'll learn to swim, but I also think you can have a career and start doing your passion on the side because that's more comfortable for most people. Most of us, Michelle, I believe strongly we live within our comfort zone. If we're comfortable earning $50,000 a year, the thought of us earning $1 million a year, it feels uncomfortable, right? I live in $1 million home now. That feels very comfortable for me. I can imagine myself living in a $3 million home. But when I go down to Beverly Hills and there's a $30 million home, that still feels uncomfortable, like it's not attainable. And of course, that's a ridiculous thought because somebody's living in that house. They're no different than you or I. They just believe they deserve it. And it's like if I made that my priority, I could get it. But that's fine. And again, I don't say this to ever brag. I say this because I'm a normal guy whose dad wanted me to be a postman, and now I'm living my ideal life. But what I say is we all have comfort zones. And if you're comfortable staying in your job and working on your passion, if it's music or you want to be a networker or a podcaster or an entrepreneur or a musician or a politician, you can do it on the side because when you get home from work, you'll have the energy to do what you're passionate about. I used to work that job where I wasn't happy. It was a good job, but I'd come home and I'd study 3 hours a night to become an airline pilot because I really felt passionate about it. So it didn't feel like work. So that's how I did it.
I know every state is different. I'm in Texas and you're in California, and I don't know who's listening, but maybe there is someone listening that at one time they did want to become a pilot. They liked the idea of traveling. They wanted to become a pilot, and they put that on the back burner. Could you just share with us a step-by-step process on how to become a pilot based off of your experience?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, first of all, my second book was How to Become an Airline Pilot, Achieve Your Dream Without Going Broke. I say I write about what I know because that was me. And the very first decision in anything in life is just make the decision that you're going to do it. Most people will just hem and haw and they'll think about it and they'll wish. It's like, oh, I wish my life gets better or I hope things change. That isn't it. You've got to commit to it and say, I'm going to do it. Write it down, visualize it, and then what's the next step? Well, okay, I don't know. Go to your local flight school. I always say that's where you're going to learn to fly. But I say in this case, you don't even need to do that. Just read my book. It's an ebook for $2.99, or the paperback $6.99. I say there's flight schools you can go to, and in the book I teach people how to do it faster and save money because. When I started, I didn't know. I just went down to the flight school and they said, buy this, buy that. And I'd go out and I'd fly an hour here and an hour there. And that's the expensive way to do it. But I learned as I went along, there's flight schools where you can take 5 days and go there and power out everything, and they'll do it for less money and faster. And if you have to travel to Las Vegas or Oklahoma, go ahead and do it because you can save thousands of dollars. There's scholarships available, and there's people with planes out there right now that, rich people, doctors and lawyers and people like me, even that I have access to a plane. I can go fly it anytime I want, but usually I want somebody to come with me. So somebody that wants to be a pilot, find somebody with an airplane. You can post ads on Craigslist. You can go down to the airport and post a message, say, hey, I'm an aspiring pilot. I'd like to fly with somebody. People will contact you. But mostly is make the commitment, read my book, email me. I'll give my email later, but go to the flight school and take first thing. Let's just keep it simple. Go to the flight school, take an introductory flight. It's a 30-minute flight, and just make sure that when you go up in the airplane that you're not scared to death or you don't get sick and that you really want to do it. But can I tell you, Michelle, that this month in December, I'm only going to fly 10 days. I'm going to have 20 days off work. And I'm still going to earn a good living. And I know people are thinking, well, I'm lazy. No, I'm living my ideal life. I don't want to be gone all the time. I want to control my schedule. I'm flying to Mexico tomorrow night. Then I'll be in Austin, Texas. Then I'll be in San Antonio. And while I'm there, I'm going to write books and I'm going to explore the city. But it's like I'm doing it. And if I can do it, if somebody wants to do it, if you're in a cubicle and it's killing you and you really want to travel for a living, Become an airline pilot, because the airlines are desperate. They need you, and just do it. And don't think, oh, it's too expensive, it's going to take too long, or I'm too old. Stop it. Just do it. I'm 51 years old, Michelle. I'm an airline pilot. And, if I would have let everybody, all the naysayers, just one quick story. I'm sorry for rambling. I was, I was on an airline, on a pilot website recently, and I was promoting my second book. I said, hey, I wrote this book. I want you people to be able to do what I did. And all the responses were all negative. And I realized people are, that's again, that 95% is, well, you don't know, it's too hard. I got a family and I can't possibly do it. And I'm just like, well, if you believe you can't do it, you're right. But if you believe you can do it, you're also right. It's just a belief. And a belief, I always say, we are creators. We create with our minds, with our imagination. And I think you agree with me on that, right? It's, you imagine your life and you're living that life.
Absolutely. I love your passion, your energy, your zeal for life. It's such an amazing story because, like, you just recently did this, like, what, 2, 3
Yeah.
years ago.
That's right.
So it's not
only
too late.
2.5 years. Yeah, it's never too late. And then after I was a pilot a year, I said, hey, I really love talking about the law of attraction. I really love to inspire people. It's so good. I know you feel this way when you teach a seminar or a class and people come up to you afterwards and they say, hey, you really had an impact on me. That just fills you with such positive energy. I love that. I love to share the message and to tell people that you can live your ideal life and pursue your passions. And it's really all true because other people shared it with me. And initially, I didn't believe it. It's just, I rejected it. But over time, the seed was planted and it started to grow. And now, Michelle, I know if tomorrow I decided to become a circus performer or a musician or a politician, I can do anything I desire to do because who's going to stop me? Nobody. The only one who will ever stop me from doing anything is me.
Yeah. Robert, how can people get in contact with you?
My email is vegetarianpilot@gmail.com if people want to write me, and please do it. I'd love to hear their stories. And if they want to talk on the phone, I'll say the first 20 people who write to me and they want to talk, I'll call them and we'll talk and hopefully give them advice on whatever they want. But I've got a website called howtobecome-an-airline-pilot.org and my other website, amuchbetterlife.com. That's where I talk more about goal setting, the law of attraction. My other books are How to Become an Airline Pilot and then A Day in the Life of an Airline Pilot. And just in the future, when people hear this podcast, I'm working on my fourth book is Happy Wife, Happy Life. So that should be done in a couple of months. And then I'm going to write another book about goal setting and the law of attraction because that's really where my passion is. And I know that you're passionate too. And it just feels so good to share the message. And so that's what I want to spend my time doing is to sharing the message.
Absolutely. And for the final question, how do you define success?
Success is, I tell you what it's not about. It's not about money or possessions. Success is being happy because I think most people ultimately we want to be happy, and is spending your day how you want to spend it. So I'm happy. Like today, I'm gonna after this interview, and thank you for the opportunity, by the way. I'm gonna go down to the beach. I'm gonna walk on the beach. I meditate and I listen to podcasts. Then I'm gonna go to the gym, and then I'm gonna come back and write the book. And that's exactly what I want to do in life. So I'm doing what I want to do. So for me, that's my happiness is I'm happy because I'm doing what I want to do. And I think, again, when I wasn't doing that, when I was going to job because I thought it paid such good money, I couldn't give it up while I was sitting in traffic and sat in my cubicle for 9 hours a day, I definitely wasn't happy. But most people would say, oh, yeah, you're successful. No, that was not success. That was misery. So happiness is just doing what you enjoy, and don't be afraid to go for it. I always say, do what you enjoy in life. All else is suffering.
Wow. Say it again.
Do what you enjoy in life. All else is suffering.
Wow. That's powerful.
Thank you.
That should be the theme for 2018.
I think I use that as a quote in one of my books. But yeah, I've got 3 books and 4th book coming out. And again, I found you, and I know you're amazing, and that's why I wanted to be part of your world, is because we're on the same wavelength, and it's really an honor for me to talk to you, Michelle, because I think you're awesome. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out to me, because podcasting, it can be, I'm not going to say it's difficult, but there's a lot of variables that come along with it. And I was like, oh my God, do I want to keep doing this? But every interview literally serves a purpose, and it just continues to motivate me. And you reached out to me at the perfect time. We're doing this interview at the perfect time to keep my motivation alive. So I'm just so grateful for you and your life.
That's great. Thank you. And yeah, just to all the listeners, just please try what we suggest. Even if you don't believe it, give it a try. Envision your ideal life and just see what happens. Envision the income you want, the relationship, the home you want, the career you want, the health you want, and just you will be amazed. And after time, you won't be amazed. You will expect it, because that's how the universe works. That's just how it works.
I love it. I love it. Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening to Robert. Be sure to check him out. I'm going to have everything, the links in the show notes. I believe in you. A personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.